thanks for coming.
Yeah, my
I know
pleasure.
it was not easy to get here. You got it here at 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning, 5 in the morning Eastern.
Yeah, great times.
And like Greenwich Mean Time, that's like, I don't know.
But
like
you had a busy week. Before you flew here, you raised a gazillion dollars.
2 gazillion.
46.5 million is the official amount you raised this week.
As reported by
me and other people. And the thing that lazy writers like myself say is, hey, isn't it interesting that people want to invest in media again? But it is pretty interesting, right? Because this is something that, especially this town, right, was not supposed to be interested in. People didn't want to put money into media because, for one thing, it didn't scale. So how are you convincing people to give you $46.5 million?
Well, it's scaling, you know. We have a big network and, you know, different measurement services, as you point out, but Google Analytics, over 150 million on platform. 3x that when you look at the brand presence across other digital platforms, Facebook, Twitter.
Just so people understand what you do for a living, because I should have set you up better than that.
Oh yes, where's my intro? So I Jim Bankoff, nice to see you. I run Vox Media, which is a media company. We publish seven big consumer verticals. So our brand in sports is SB Nation. Our brand in technology is called The Verge. We have a brand in gaming called Polygon, one in dining and food called Eater, one in home and real estate called Curbed, one in fashion and retail called Racked, and one that we launched this year in general news called Vox, Vox.com. That was editor-in-chief of that one's a guy named Ezra Klein, who came over from the Washington Post. So combined,
so that's scaling.
That's scaling, and they're all growing really quickly. And the short answer for us is that we believe that each of these brands can and should become the leading media brands of their generation. And so, simply put, you know, this is a sophisticated crowd, but you know, when I interview with someone who is less sophisticated, I put it in simple terms, which is one generation had a medium called print, and there were great magazine publications across broad consumer categories. Let's say sports
Wait, this is what you told me, so I'm one of the dumb guys. All right, I got it.
Oh, yeah. No, you're not. Don't worry.
Come on.
Great magazines on the news rack, great cable networks on the TV dial. This generation is growing up with digital brands, and we think there's an opportunity for that. Why are investors investing? I believe they see that new audiences with every generation, every medium migrate to new brands, but they also see that the old media is giving way to the new. It's happened in print already, and now it's happening in video as well.
So, and this is kind of similar to what we're talking about with George, right? People are saying, hey, this is a big opportunity to build a company, to invest in these new companies, because we're going to be the new. I think you could describe yourself sometimes as the new Time Inc., right? But at the very, like, we're going to be the new place that people go to watch stuff.
Right.
But again, like in the case of the YouTube networks, they've all sort of sold because it seems like they've reached a point where they couldn't build on their own. You're still building on your own. BuzzFeed is building on their own. Are you guys eventually going to have to reach a point where you sell to an NBC or someone like that?
We wouldn't have just done, raised a new round of financing if we wanted to sell. I tend to look at things a little differently. Like I am personally in this for the long haul, and we want to build a great company. And right now, we think we can continue to do that independently. If I'm very long and bullish on that.
Can we have a nerdy discussion about scaling?
Sure.
Generally, when you guys talk about scaling, you're talking about we built a piece of software and now we can make as many copies of that software as we want. There's no additional cost. That's an awesome way to scale. Twitter sort of the same way, right? One platform, you sign up more users. You guys have hundreds of employees. A bunch of those companies a bunch of those websites you just announced are ones that you bought this year or launched this year. So your growth is coming as you're buying existing companies or hiring more people to make more content. That doesn't sound like Silicon Valley's definition of scale.
Well, it actually, it's the right question. In our case, Silicon Valley is interested in how technology transforms industries, energy, healthcare, education, and media too. And we are very much a technology-driven company. We use technology. In our case, we have a very large developer organization, developer designers, and what they do is work with editorial talent to make them more productive, to make sure that their content is presented in a more engaging fashion better, to make sure that it is produced more efficiently from the time that you, Walt or Kara, have an idea to the time and how you express that idea, how you publish that idea, and then how that idea, how that story finds its audience. So how do you use technology to make the creative process more efficient and more engaging, and to make sure that the output finds its audience, production and distribution better, more efficient.
So you're talking about tools that make it
scale.
easier to publish, but you still have to hire more people, right? If you want to make another article, either someone has to write that article or you have to hire someone to make another article.
Yes, that's right, but it's not, you get leverage off of the technology scale. So we're proud that there's human creativity that drives this, yet technology can make that human creativity more productive and better. So absolutely, what it translates to from a margin perspective is way better than like a television production or newspaper shop that is all focused on just, we need one more human to create one more marginal unit. Like, if you're looking at it from that perspective, I sometimes describe it as like, you're right, this is not a piece of software that you publish once and sell 1,000 copies of, but it's also not a one-off of everything. It's technology that's helping it. Now, the good news is it doesn't have the obsolescence of a piece of software either. And so we're creating something that's more lasting and has more asset value.
You guys talk about your technology a lot, or you talk about your CMS, which is nerd speak for publishing system.
Modern media stack.
And BuzzFeed, who you're a competitor with, talks about their technology as well. We're in a building owned or leased by Automatic, which makes WordPress, which is the software we publish on. Works really well. We haven't built our own technology. Why is it important to have your own technology? There's lots of ways that are relatively simple to publish.
I think WordPress is a great company. I have tremendous respect for what they've built, but I don't know.
They're a billion-dollar company, by the way.
They're an awesome company. They deserve a much higher valuation than that. But for what we do, it's different. And I would question, you say it works very well. Does it do everything that you need it to do as for the ambitions that you have for Recode? And
it's great. I type a story and I hit publish and it goes out on the internet. It works really well.
I don't know. I know there are a lot of journalists in the front rows here, and tell me, have you ever had frustrations with your CMS? Show of hands of journalists, and then show of hand. Now put your hand down if you've never had frustrations with your CMS, or if you think it can accomplish. How many hands went down?
But I got to say, the people who seem to enjoy that, who are most intrigued by your CMS argument, who are in the press, tend to work at places like Reuters or Wall Street Journal or New York Times, and they have terrible publishing systems. Reuters can't add links to their stories. It's this giant thing. So they have terrible publishing systems. So when you say we have a great one, they get very excited about it. The same thing with Medium, but it seems like publishing on the internet's a pretty simple thing. Bloggers been around for a long time.
Publishing on the internet definitely is, but creating, it's more than just publishing. First of all, it's analytics, it's distribution, it's understanding, it's A/B testing. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's community management. I know, Recode gave up on comments. You said why, but the reason why was in part probably because you couldn't keep up with the managing of the comments. I mean, I respect that the conversation moved to Twitter and Facebook. That's not the case on it has moved to Twitter and Facebook, but it's growing on our platform because we invest in making sure that we have a great community management system that's part of this. So it does matter. You guys relented. That's evidence that perhaps for whatever reason you had to relent.
If we had your tech, we could still have comments.
Yeah, you probably could. We do, and it's a big part of what we do.
And by the way, the reason it's good for you to have comments, there's a business reason for that, right? I mean, you generate more page views, you generate more engagement.
I know. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't look at it as because we do more pages, because it's a product, and part of the product is creating a community around the product. We started in sports, and the reason we were able to grow so quickly in sports is that we realized that we could be the best place for people to talk about the teams that they care about. We can build communities of interest. Bay Area, whether it's McCovey Chronicles, which is probably the biggest Giant site or Golden State of Mind, which is the biggest Warrior site. Like that's how we grew up, and we value community in that way. But back to the question on platform, it's also I think traditional or older media companies got themselves into trouble when they just thought CMS, that's a tech thing, that's a publishing platform, it's commoditized, who cares? Like that's how, perhaps, in your example, Reuters ran into trouble, or the old school publications ran into trouble. The genesis of even the notion of a CMS, content management system, in itself is limiting. It's not just a way to publish platform. The genesis of it, I think, is great magazine and newspaper companies saw this thing called the internet coming, and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a technology thing coming. Who do we call? And they picked up the phone and called their IT department. And to this day, legacy media companies refer to their technology group as the IT department. We're here in Silicon Valley. Does Twitter have an IT department? I mean, they do, but it's not the same thing as a product group. And so it's the difference. CMS is an IT word. We think of ourselves as a product platform because we want to make the best possible product. And there's an important distinction. Anyone who builds web products knows the distinction between the IT department and product management. So, that's how we view it.
And by the way, when you say it also should theoretically increase your valuation, right? If you can call yourself up, Katie doesn't want to call Twitter a media company, right? Her bosses don't want to call it a media company.
It increases our valuation because it increases our value. I mean,
because you're more valuable as well. And back to platform and scaling again, I think the way that a lot of people in this town and many other places now think about growing media businesses is you get the users to do all the work. You make them create the content and distribute it, or you get the media companies who are already making it to give you the content for free and push out on Twitter and Facebook. You guys are still paying people to make stuff for you. Wouldn't it be faster to go get the users to make this stuff for you?
I don't know if it would be faster, but it's just a different value proposition. I mean, Twitter is a great thing, but Twitter's not going to report on tech news, and Twitter's not,
No, they get us to do it.
They get you to do it, and they get The Verge to do it, and they get TechCrunch to do it, and so it's just a different thing. There will always be an important role for professional storytellers, for professional journalists. It's changing. There's a lot of disruption going on as the internet is disrupting everything. It's certainly disrupting media, but that demand will not go away.
And what do you think about that channel conflict that Twitter and Facebook pose for media companies? You're a big media company. Twitter and Facebook want you to give them more of your stuff. They'll say that explicitly, or there's a discussion going on with Facebook right now. Why don't you put more stuff on our platform? Is that something you're interested in, or do you want to hold back?
We do it already. I mean, we put our content on, say, YouTube, which is a platform. We're doing more video on Facebook too. So, we believe that in order to build a modern media brand, you have to be where the audience is. In digital, the audience is on a lot of different platforms, and they're not just coming to our websites, of course. These other platforms can drive traffic to us, but they can also be kind of expressions of our content on their platform. And so we're not averse to it. Now, ultimately, for it to work for the platform and it has to work for the partner. And I know Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and the rest recognize that. Flipboard, even YouTube, it recognizes that. And so if it doesn't work for the partner, it's ultimately not going to work for the platform. And I think time has kind of shown that.
Do you think, so there's this idea that Facebook wants to maybe host content, wants you to actually take your stuff and give it to them, and maybe they'll do a revenue share. Does that appeal to you?
Well, I read rumors of that. There are no specifics, so I can't say in abstract, whether that rumor, what that is. But I would say again,
there's a there.
There is? What is it?
There's a there. It's a discussion.
There. What are the terms?
I can't report on my potential scoop. But it's a discussion, right? And by the way, it came in the New York Times, so I'm not taking
No, I said David Carr wrote that, and I read it with great interest. But I don't know what I get bigger, to your bigger point. If they're smart, and they recognize that one of the biggest engagement drivers of their platform is great content. You see it in Recode's traffic numbers going up. We see it in our traffic numbers going up. they see it in their engagement. There was a time when they were leaning into, say, social readers, and a time where there was more game content in the news feed.
Yeah.
And the reason why there's more content in the news feed now, professional content, is because it's a good engagement driver. And so I think they're smart to want to work more closely with content providers, and I think they're smart, so they're going to figure out a way to make sure that that's an economically viable thing. Video is a great example. I mean, YouTube hosts it on YouTube because it's a great experience, right? And if Facebook wants to do that, if Twitter, Pinterest, any of them want to do that, we'll certainly talk to them.
One thing you have been able to do is build audiences very quickly for your brands, right? The Verge started off basically as a bunch of people who worked for AOL, like you did. They were all at Engadget. You sort of ported them and almost the entire company over. And
well, there were like 8 founding members.
A lot of people from Engadget.
Eight?
Yeah, so many. 8. And on day one, they didn't have any audience, and then you've grown a very big audience. You've launched Vox, which again didn't exist.
Fastest growing web brand of 2014, Vox.com.
So how do you do it? How do you build audiences quickly on the web?
Oh, thank you. No, please.
We'd like to know.
How do we do it? Well, talent plus technology and culture, wrapping it all together. It's a high-level answer to your question, but I talked to you a little bit about our content platform, and really, our content platform is less about the chorus is less about the ones and zeros and the code and design, and it's more about a workflow and a mentality and approach that we take, which is a tightly collaborative culture where you, the journalist, storyteller, works closely with developers and designers to understand what one another need. How do you tell better stories? How do you tell stories that are more in line with how internet media consumers want to consume and share content? So specifically in the case of Vox.com, it's about trying and iterating on new approaches to content. If you go there right now, please do, vox.com. You'll see that there's a content presentation mechanism we have that we call them card stacks, and it's basically Vox's value proposition is about explaining the news and bringing context to important issues in the news. Well, one device that we figured out how to do that is on the phone. It's a swipeable thing on the desktop.
These are literally cards.
Yeah, they're literally cards, almost like index cards. And you'll say what is Benghazi, and it'll give you 10 cards that answer the most kind of frequently asked questions about Benghazi. They're continuously updated as the news warrants it. And anyway, it's a new way of presenting important information that in its case was devised particularly for mobile devices. I bring it up as one example, and there are bigger ones and there are smaller ones that we are innovating and trying to discover all day, every day to make a better consumption experience. That is what leads to that kind of success. That might be what's best on Twitter, what's best on Facebook, what's best on our sites. And then of course, it's like great people, great talent, like people like you who are subject matter experts. Going back
more
to our
praise for me.
Yeah, you are great.
But there's lots of smart people making stuff on the web, right? They haven't built businesses that quickly.
Well, the way I look at here's one way of looking at it. There's all these great platforms, user-generated platforms that you mentioned, YouTube, Facebook, WordPress. They're all amazing. We live in this era of these brand new platforms for self-expressions, and everyone runs to them and expresses themselves. And let's face it, 99.9% of it is crap. George, looks to like weed out and find that cream skim, and we go out and someone do a similar thing, which is to find the most talented subject matter experts who know how to communicate online. We're not trying to bring magazine writers or television reporters over to our platform. We're finding people who know their stuff and know it online, whether it's the guy, our Chicago Cubs guy, Bleed Cubby Blue, or our San Francisco Giants guy, McCovey Chronicles, or the woman who runs Eater New York. These are people who grew up on the internet learning how to engage an audience online, and they're subject matter experts.
If you're a magazine writer, you can't learn how to do that?
You can. It's a lot harder. It's just like it's hard for Howard Stern to be good at television or Rush Limbaugh to be good at television. It's a different medium. It has different tools. It has
People who are good at telling stories can't do them in different mediums?
Some people can, some people can't.
We were talking about audience and being able to build stuff
few can.
quickly. One thing that's happening specifically, I think, because of Facebook right now is it's allowed some brand new site to spin up audiences very quickly. There's something called Elite Daily, which is a bunch of guys on Park Avenue in New York that didn't really exist a couple years ago, and then they were a dude site for a year, and now they're dudes and dudettes, and they say they have 50 million users. I think almost their entire audience is from Facebook. When you can build audiences that quickly, almost overnight, does that devalue your work or other properties that are building audiences more slowly?
I think as new distribution platforms grow, there are companies that seek to game the algorithms of those distribution platforms. We saw that a lot when search a while ago, when there were these content farms that were just SEO arbitrage things, and they kind of reverse engineered the algorithm and went to the top. What happened was the people who run Google thought to themselves, like, gosh, this is a really lousy experience for Google, so we're going to shut that down. And I think there's
But the difference was, right, you ended up on a demand media link, or whomever, sorry, Joanne Bradford, and you thought you were going to get actual information, you got kind of crummy information, it wasn't a good experience, Google wanted to stop
and you're
that.
saying in your Elite Daily example, that's good information.
I'm saying on people, the reason stuff shows up in my Facebook feed is because my friends have shared it, so they like it. And maybe it's crap, maybe it's not, they like it. So isn't that a different value proposition?
Ultimately, if you go to your Facebook feed and your Facebook feed day in, day out is full of things that may have been superficially shared, but over time make Facebook seem like a place that's all it is, Facebook is going to shut that down, or they're going to turn it down, and
Why?
they're going to tune their algorithm.
Why do they care?
Because they want their platform to be more than just a stream of cat videos. Even though the cat videos might be cute, they think that to drive long-term engagement, it can't be too much of that, too much of one thing.
And you guys don't want to have your own cat video site?
There's nothing wrong with cat videos. The cats are cute, and I love cats. We're just in a different business.
So a year ago, you raised $40 million, and I asked you, what are you going to do with it? You said, we're going to build the brand.
I did exactly what I said I was going to do.
You bought a bunch of companies.
And I launched,
and then you launched a new
four
one.
verticals. We built a creative services unit called Vox Creative. You haven't asked about our business model, but I'm happy to tell you.
Sell ads on the internet.
No, well, it's more than selling ads on the internet. It's about actually making ads too.
I'm going to let you tell me about your business model, but I want to ask you how many sites you're going to launch or buy this year.
I don't have any plans right now to share about that.
Oh, that's different, because before you said you're not going to do that. You said I'm gonna keep building.
I don't.
I'm not going to
actually don't
use this money to go expand.
Yeah, I don't have any plans to do that. I think I didn't have any plans. I guess last year we did have a plan to buy Curved Eater Racked when we raised the money. We didn't have a plan to launch Vox.com though. That was just an opportunistic thing. I will say this year our priorities are more around scaling in video and more around scaling in our Vox Creative unit, which is our creative services unit, which helps to make content for advertisers.
This is the part where we talk about your business plan.
Well, you are a business reporter. I didn't want to let you.
I lump you in with the group of the people who says we're making native content. We're not doing banner ads. We're making native content. But it just seems like it's another way of describing an ad.
It is an ad, but we believe that internet advertising doesn't have to suck, and we think it has been pretty lousy historically, and it's been lousy because it's been focused primarily on direct response advertising and primarily response on predicated on interrupting an experience, or like either annoying you to get your attention in one way, shape, or form, or basically that's it. And so we believe that you can actually have good advertising by creating good stories and integrating beautiful imagery onto a site to express that story. And so that's what our unit does, and it uses the same technology that I described to you to do that efficiently. Advertisers have the same problem they're trying to solve as we solved, which is how do you efficiently create compelling stories and make sure that those stories find an audience online. In our case, an editorial audience. In their case, potential customers.
Who makes those ads that you guys run? Are you guys building them in-house?
We're building them in-house. With it's not. We have a wall between the editorial people and
You're not making your
content
writers
people.
make ads?
No, we don't believe in that because you kind of undermine trust if you do that. So we're very careful about different people and calling it out very carefully.
So again, I have the same scale question about native ads, right? Because you've got to go hire someone or pay someone to go make that ad.
I have the same answer. It's called, it's content. And so we can, by using a technology platform to assist in the production, and the distribution, we can do so more efficiently.
You can make it more efficiently, but someone has to make this stuff from scratch. Because the answer, again, on the internet has been to take one ad and populate it a million different places.
Well, you can still take one ad and populate it in a million places.
But then it's not native, right? Because native means it's supposed to be for this one thing.
No, native, I think, that's not how I don't even really use the word native. I just kind of call it like almost brand storytelling. So you can produce that story once, and it can run on multiple places, not just our site. It could run where our sites, although we certainly like them to run on our sites, is a great starting point because we have a smart, big audience. But they can run on Facebook, they can run on Twitter, they can run on Recode.
Are your ads running on other sites?
Yeah. Well, they're running right now on social platforms, and from time to time they run on other sites, and be happy to talk to you about that.
That's a Walton Kara question. Questions from the audience for Jim? One right there. Oh, well, I know what Alexia's question is, but you can ask it.
Oh, why don't you? Hi, Alexia. The Engadget what?
Here, you want to give her the microphone so she can. This is a very inside baseball, but it's good.
Inside baseball, so earmuffs if you don't want to navel gaze. Why do you think the Engadget Trader Estate, that group that left, and what's the likelihood of that happening again? Like the Reuters reporters get sick of not being able to add links and collude to come to you guys.
I know why they left. They left because they wanted to become part of they had creative ideas that they wanted to express. We didn't actually go and, believe it or not, we didn't go and poach them from AOL. They
just randomly showed up one day at your doorstep.
Yeah, in a blanket, and they left, and then we hired them, and they were looking for a home, and we provided them one. And the reason why they were looking for a home, I believe, is that goes the same for the Vox.com team. Melissa Bell, Ezra Klein, Matt Iglesias, who were the founding members of that team, left because they, like you, were talented, had a vision, and wanted to achieve that vision. They wanted to make a difference in the world, just like everyone in this room does, and they wanted to find a place that can help them make a difference.
What about that second part of her question? When there's a lot of money flowing around, when Fusion is writing anyone who can type a check, they didn't exist, and now they're hiring people. BuzzFeed said they're going to hire 20 people to run it. BuzzCrunch. How do you keep people from going to the next platform?
We have to be a place where talented people want to be, and that means a lot of things. But first of all, that means that they have to feel like they can come into work every day and express themselves and achieve what they're trying to achieve professionally. But for most of the people who work there, we pay really well, but I would say that most of them would be doing it for free, even if we didn't. And they're passionate about what they do. You don't enter this line of work always to get rich, although some people do. You enter it because you have something you want to say. You have something that's important to you. And we have to always be the best place, the best platform for people to do that. And that's why I think they come to us, and generally that's why they stay. But it's a great time for talent. It's great that there's a lot of places to go. It should be that way. Remember, a few years ago, we weren't complaining that the checks were so big and there were so many places to go. We were complaining that so many journalists were out of work. And so isn't it great how that is changing?
It's actually amazing.
Yeah.
What incumbent media org do you think is the most susceptible to poaching?
Gosh.
Sorry, I had to ask.
Let's have an HR session after this. There's a question back there I want to jump to first. Someone's raising a hand there.
Hi, my name's Caroline Udak. I work at Facebook. So I'm a big fan of Ezra Klein. There's been a bunch of discussion that since he went to Fox, he's gone maybe a little bit soft, and you're doing some articles that are quite hard-hitting news and some that are a little bit more clickbaiting. So I wanted to get your take on sort of how you think about the tension between quality journalism and stuff that drives traffic. You've been talking about traffic growth a lot. A lot of that does come through Facebook, it comes through Twitter. I think we know that a lot of stuff that drives traffic isn't like the best quality stuff. So I wanted to get your take about how you think about that.
I don't know of that discussion, first of all. Question the premise. I think, I've maybe seen some, I think there was a discussion on Facebook that maybe a Facebook product engineer brought up, and then there was backlash about Facebook actually creating the problem. But I don't think Facebook created the problem of clickbait. I think, Vox.com is an extraordinarily substantive site, and I defy people to find stuff that is not substantive. It's our premise.
There's no crap on Vox or Verge or SB Nation. It's all premium quality.
Yes.
Okay.
And we actually have a motto internally that substance is viral. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not fun sometimes. It doesn't mean that it's not light-hearted sometimes. If you look at, just going back to an older generation of magazines, for instance, like there was front of the book stuff, like a cartoon and a little quote thing, and then there was like deep investigative stuff, and then there was a column or what we would now call a blog post in the back. So, there are always going to be different content types. But I mean, to your I think broader question as opposed to Vox, I think ultimately we want to be known as a place of substance, and other people will do what they're going to do. We believe that substance is viral, substance travels. I hope Facebook feels the same way, and Facebook rewards companies that produce quality content. And I think you will, because I think it's in your best interest.
Another question back there.
Hey, James Temple with Recode. Right about the time that you were sort of raising questions about Recode's platform and comments, Vox.com posted, "Everybody farts, but here are 9 surprising facts about flatulence you may not know." So I'm curious. I mean, is that substantive?
Dude, click on it. You tell me.
I would definitely click on the fart.
I mean, no, honestly, because yes is the answer. It very much so is the answer. Like, I think you're confusing the fact that it's kind of like, interesting, fun kind of headline with like what is actually written. So, click on it and be the judge, and don't click on it ever again if you are disappointed with it. But just because you're writing about things that people care about or find interesting doesn't mean that it's not substantive.
Kara, I know you're the boss, but we're going to let one other person ask a question.
I got one back here.
Wait, go ahead, Kara, go ahead. Kara, she doesn't have a mic, but she just said it is very substantive.
That's stuff I want to know about, but it happens.
You do want to know about it. One last question.
So the answer is yes, it's substantive.
One last question for
Got
Jim.
a question back here.
Please.
About lists. So looking at your site, you don't have clearly as many sort of listicles or lists as some of your competitors. But I just wanted to get your view on lists. There are a few on there, 11 good reasons to move to Sweden.
Yeah,
is it good for journalism?
Click on that.
No, I did, but I mean,
is it substantive?
Yeah, is it transitionary? Are you going to do more lists? Do you want to keep it?
There's nothing wrong with a list unless it doesn't pay out, unless it's just like, a clickbait, So there's nothing in theory with the list as a format. It's actually like a really good way to organize it. I think that lists get a bad rap though, because there are companies that have been all about lists, and lists that are not substantive, that don't pay out. There are companies that have been built on that. We're not one of those companies. We think there are different types of storytelling mechanisms. I think maybe, 3% of our content might deserve a list because that's the best way to tell the story. But when you're a company that's all lists or all slideshows or all quizzes, then that's a problem, because you are trying to like game something, I think. You're not trying to tell the best story in the best format.
BuzzFeed has a lot of lists. They're famous for their lists. They have the same traffic as you. They've raised the same amount of you. They're worth twice as much as you, theoretically. Should you guys do more lists?
No.
Okay. Jim, you've been a good sport.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.